groups today. And after today, I think you will take a sigh of relief knowing that they are not as difficult as you once thought they were. Okay? The proofs that we're going to do are very straightforward. They follow a pattern. These are all of the shortcut ways to show that triangles are congruent instead of first finding out if all the angles are congruent to the other angles and all the sides are congruent to the other sides. So there's 5 shortcuts. This is the first one. It's abbreviated as SSS, which just stands for side, side, side. So if we show that the 3 sides of one triangle are congruent to 3 sides of another, we can say they're the exact same triangle. Okay? So looking at this picture, these markings right here are all we would need to say that these 2 triangles are congruent. Once we have these 3 sides congruent to the other 3 sides, then we know the triangles are exactly the same. That's what all of our proofs are trying to get to, is saying that the 2 triangles are congruent to each other. The letter order is hugely important. The homework quiz that we had, many of you didn't pay attention to what order the letters were in when you have a congruent statement, so keep your eye out for that. We'll talk about that as we go. All right, so we're going to be starting and finishing these proofs all on your own, and I will show you how simple they really are. So looking at this first example, they gave us 2 things. They told us that AB is congruent to CB, so let's put that on the picture. Those 2 are congruent to each other. The next one is AD is congruent to CD, so let's put that on the picture. What do you think we could put for number 1? Yep, come. Yeah, let's put this one. AB is congruent to CB. Reason is given. That's number 1. Next, we could say the other given. Okay, I need you to notice right now that half of this proof used very little brain power. Okay, always write your givens down. Don't leave a proof blank on a test because I give you the givens, so the givens should be put on the proof. Start out your proof by writing down what you do know. Now remember, we're trying to show that all 3 sides are congruent. So what's the only side we haven't talked about? BD? This one right here, right? So what should we say for step 3? Take a guess. Is congruent to BD. What's the reason for that? That is reflexive. That's going to be one of your most common reasons used in proofs. Now, a common theme that you're going to see in these proofs is that we're always looking for 3 pieces of information before we can say the triangles are congruent. In this shortcut, we're looking for 3 sides. So here's the first set of sides, so I put a little dot by it. Second set of sides, third set of sides. I have my 3 dots, which means I can say my last step, what is always going to go in the last step? Whatever is right here. Okay, so we've got triangle ABD is congruent to triangle CBD. Okay, the reason, you never write proof or prove or proven or anything like that. The way we got to this is by using our shortcut side, side, side. A lot easier than the other proofs you've seen, right? This is what most of them are going to be looking like. Okay, we need 3 pieces of information to prove that triangles are congruent. We've only learned one of these shortcuts, but all of them require 3 pieces. Ready for the next one? All right. Now, I talked about on the last slide that a lot of you mistakenly named the triangles. So let's try this one. If I tell you that the first one is going to be triangle ABC, we have to figure out what order to name the second one. So I'm going to have you all put your guess down on your notes. I want all of you to guess, so try to guess the order of the second triangle, and then we'll see who's right. I'll give you a couple seconds. And before we say the right answer, sometimes it does help to do this. We went A to B to C. Yes.
E, D, C.
Good. We need to go along the same sides in the same order. E, D, C would be the proper congruent statement so that they're named in the same order. Remember, the reason we do that is so that all of the angles match up that are congruent to each other. So we know angle A is congruent to angle E, angle B is congruent to angle D, and so on. All right, let's try this true, false. First of all, let's just talk about, are the two triangles congruent to each other? Yes, the two triangles are congruent because of that reflexive step. So we have all three sides congruent to all three sides. Look at the congruent statement. Did they name them correctly? Yeah. Okay, let's double check. YXV and LXV. So we went across the side that has 1 dash and then the 3 dashes. This one, 1 dash and 3 dashes. So this is true. Okay. This one. Are the triangles congruent to each other? Let's answer that first. Yeah. 3 congruent sides to 3 congruent sides. Did they name it correctly? No. So this one is false. Okay, this congruent statement is not true because the angles aren't in the right spot. A congruent to E, is that true? No. No, right there it fails. Okay, so you have to make sure you're naming it in the right order. Questions? All right, one more. We have 2 givens. We have a picture. Let's put the markings on the picture of what we do know. AB is congruent to BC. We don't have a symbol for midpoint, so we'll put that on in a minute. But let's make this congruent statement to be true. What would it be? ABD and CBD. Good. Let's try this proof. What should you automatically just start doing without even hardly using your brain? Write the 2 givens down on steps 1 and 2. Now the only shortcut we know so far is side, side, side. So that's what we're looking for. So I need my dots next to 3 sets of sides. We only have 1 so far. Okay, we're looking for 2 more. Let's look at number 2 right here because they're going to only put stuff in the given that matters. So what does D as the midpoint of AC tell us about the picture? What could we say because of that?
That BD is because the AB is congruent to BC the same length and D is in the middle. So
Let's just focus on it specifically this sentence though.
AD is congruent to C.
Okay, so if D right here is the midpoint of this whole segment, can't we then say that those 2 segments would be equal because it cuts it in half? So what's our reason? How did we know that these were congruent? What told us that? The midpoint, right? So what would be our reason? Definition of midpoint. Good. Okay, there's another set of sides for us. That's good. Going right along. What's the last step before we can say they're equal? Yep.
D equals 2D.
Okay, that's our third set of sides. What's the reason? Yep, anytime something is congruent to itself, we've got reflexive. We have 1, 2, 3 dots, which means we have our 3 sides that we were looking for. So we can say the triangles are now congruent. Reason? So we're going to learn 4 more shortcuts that have different acronyms at the end, other than side, 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 in the upcoming sections. Are there questions on these proofs?